People always say home is where the heart is. But I never realized just how true that was until the day I had to say goodbye to the house where I'd spent 40 years of my life. 40 years. That's more than just a number. It's a lifetime of mornings and nights, laughter echoing down hallways, birthdays, quiet Sundays, holiday meals, and tears cried behind closed doors. Every inch of that place carried a piece of my soul. The creaky wooden floors, the kitchen that always smelled like fresh coffee, the old armchair in the living room where my late husband used to read his newspaper. It was all part of me. Selling the house wasn't just a transaction. It felt like I was leaving a part of myself behind, like I was tearing a chapter out of my own story and handing it over to strangers. As I walked through each room, memories flooded my mind. The bedroom where we whispered secrets in the dark. The garden we planted together, where every spring felt like a fresh start. Even the scuffed paint on the stair railing. There was a story in every detail. How do you pack up 4 decades of love, loss, and life into cardboard boxes? Honestly, I was scared. I was scared of what would come next, scared of feeling lost, of waking up in a new place and not knowing where I belonged. The house wasn't just bricks and walls. It was comfort, safety, history. Letting go felt like losing a part of my identity. I know I'm not the only one who's been through something like this. Maybe you're standing at the edge of a big change too, feeling that same ache in your chest, wondering how to move forward when everything familiar is slipping away. If you are, just know you're not alone. Sometimes the hardest goodbyes lead to the most important beginnings. And maybe, just maybe, hearing this story will help you find a little comfort, a little hope, or even the courage to take your own next step. And if you know someone who needs to hear these words, share this with them. You never know whose heart you might touch. My name is Grace, and today I want to share something deeply personal. A story about grief, letting go, and what it means to lose not just a home but a piece of yourself. I remember the day I got the call that changed everything. The house, the one I thought I'd spend the rest of my days in, had to be sold. It felt like the ground shifted beneath my feet. Have you ever felt that sudden emptiness, like your world is slipping through your fingers? That's what it was for me. I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I used to serve pancakes on Sunday mornings, and just stared at the faded wallpaper. Packing up the dining room, I found the old Christmas ornaments, each one carrying a story. There was the tiny glass angel that my daughter made in kindergarten, its wing chipped but still beautiful. How many family dinners had we shared under those soft golden lights? The memories were alive, swirling around me, making it nearly impossible to put anything in a box. Every room held a different kind of ache. The living room, with the threadbare rug and the coffee stains from laughing too hard at my husband's jokes, seemed to whisper, "Remember when life was simpler?" Sometimes I'd close my eyes and hear the echoes of children's laughter bouncing off the walls. Does your home have sounds that live in your heart too? The hardest part was our bedroom. The bed felt too big without him. His old slippers sat by the door, untouched since he passed. The closet still smelled faintly of his cologne. Some days I'd sit on the edge of the mattress, clutching a photo, wishing I could go back in time for just one more conversation, one more hug. Loss isn't just about what's gone. It's about everything that will never happen again. There was this blue ceramic mug in the kitchen, chipped at the rim. He used it every morning. I held it, turning it over in my hands, and realized that even the smallest things become sacred when you lose someone. Do you have an object like that? Something ordinary but filled with extraordinary meaning? Walking down the hallway, I ran my hand along the walls, remembering how we measured the kids' heights, marking each year in pencil. The marks were still there, a timeline of a family growing up together. I wondered if the new owners painted over them, would those memories vanish, or did they live on inside me? The garden was another world of memories. We planted roses the first spring after we moved in. Every year he'd bring me the first bloom and I'd place it in a little vase on the windowsill. The scent of those flowers always meant hope to me, a promise that life could begin again even after a harsh winter. Some days I found myself wandering through the empty rooms, searching for a sign that everything would be okay. The silence felt heavy, like the house itself was mourning. Have you ever felt the weight of quiet after a big change, that strange blend of sadness and peace? The hardest thing to let go of was the kitchen. I baked his favorite apple pie one last time before leaving, the smell filling the air just like it did every autumn. That scent made me cry, not out of sadness but out of gratitude for all those ordinary days that suddenly felt so precious. I often found myself clutching the banister, where his hand used to rest as he climbed the stairs. I closed my eyes and tried to feel him there beside me. Grief isn't just sadness, It's love that has nowhere to go. In every corner of that house I was reminded how deeply I loved and how much it hurts to let go. Even the light in the living room was different now. Without his laughter, the shadows seemed longer, the afternoons quieter. Sometimes I would sit by the window watching the neighborhood change, wondering if I'd ever feel at home again. Is there a place in your life that holds your heart even after you've left? The process of sorting through decades of memories was overwhelming. I found letters he wrote me when we were first married, photos of birthdays, little drawings from our grandchildren. Each item felt like a piece of a puzzle that could never be put back together in the same way. The night before the movers came, I walked through every room and whispered thank you. Thank you for the shelter, the warmth, the love that filled these walls. My heart was breaking, but there was also a strange sense of peace. I realized that homes can be rebuilt, but the memories and love we carry are ours forever. That night, I slept on the living room floor, wrapped in a quilt my mother made for our wedding. It was the last night in my old life. I listened to the creaks and groans of the house settling, just like I'd done for years. I felt small but not alone. Saying goodbye is a kind of grief all its own. But in those final moments, surrounded by all the things and memories that made me who I am, I understood that endings are just another way of beginning again. Sometimes you have to let go to find yourself, even when it feels impossible. If you're holding on to something, a place, a person, a memory, know that your story matters. You're not alone in this journey. Maybe as you listen to my story, you'll find a piece of hope tucked inside your own heart. Healing takes time, but it always starts with the courage to remember and the strength to let go. Waking up that first morning after deciding to let go of the house, I felt like I was floating somewhere between two worlds. My body was there, surrounded by half-packed boxes and the echo of old routines, but my heart kept reaching back for something familiar. I made coffee in that chipped blue mug, trying to ground myself. Have you ever tried to hold on to normal even when everything has changed? The hardest part wasn't just packing things. It was packing memories. Every time I opened a drawer, I'd find little reminders of the life we built together. Wedding invitations, faded birthday cards, a broken toy from when the kids were young. Each object felt like a tiny goodbye. I kept asking myself, how do you know what to keep and what to let go? One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, I started wrapping dishes in newspaper. I found a recipe card in his handwriting, apple pie, his favorite. The words were smudged from flour and time, but the memory was clear as day. I sat down right there on the floor, letting myself cry. There's no right way to say goodbye, is there? Some boxes filled up quickly, old clothes and used gadgets, things we'd forgotten. Others took hours, each item demanding to be remembered before I could let it go. Sorting through his books, I found notes in the margins, little comments and jokes only I would understand. Isn't it strange, the things we leave behind, hoping someone will find meaning in them? Neighbors stopped by, offering hugs and stories. You always had the best roses, Mrs. Lewis said, touching my arm gently. Their kindness warmed me, but it also reminded me how much I'd missed these familiar faces. Leaving a home means leaving a whole community, not just a building. Have you ever felt both grateful and heartbroken at the same time? One night, I sat in the empty living room, surrounded by boxes stacked like little towers of the past. I tried to picture what my new life would look like. Would I ever find another place that felt like home? Would these memories come with me, or would I lose them along the way? The sense of abandonment crept in slowly. Not just from the house, but from my old self. The woman I was with, him, the life we shared. Some days I felt like a guest in my own story, uncertain where I belonged. But there was a small part of me deep down that whispered, this isn't the end. I started making lists, things to donate, things to take, things to say one last thank you to. The practical tasks gave me something to hold on to, a reason to keep moving forward. Still, each night, the quiet would return, and the ache of what was lost would settle in. Packing away the children's toys was especially hard. I held a little stuffed bear missing one ear and remembered bedtime stories and tiny arms hugging my neck. The past felt so close, almost like I could reach out and touch it. Have you ever wished you could freeze time just for one more moment? As I moved through the house, I realized how much I'd been carrying, not just furniture but years of memories, both joyful and painful. I was learning that starting over isn't about forgetting. It's about carrying what matters and finding space for something new. The first time I visited the new apartment, it felt cold and empty, nothing like the warm chaos of the old house. I stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by blank walls, and wondered if I could really do this. But hope is stubborn. Even in the emptiest rooms, it waits for you to notice. Some friends tried to cheer me up, bringing flowers and promises to visit. I smiled, grateful, but inside I was still struggling. I missed the way the house sounded at night, the creak of the stairs, the hush of wind through the garden. I missed the comfort of what I knew. One evening, as I sorted through photo albums, I found a picture of our first day in the house. We were young, laughing, arms around each other, full of dreams. Looking at that photo, I realized every beginning once felt uncertain. Maybe, just maybe, this new start could hold something good too. Slowly, I began to imagine the possibility of happiness. Not the same as before, but something new. I let myself feel the grief, but also the gratitude. Every ending is a chance to remember what was and to hope for what could be. The process of moving on was messier than I expected. There were setbacks and moments of doubt, but also little victories. A favorite book rediscovered, and old friends call it just the right time. Each day I learned a little more about resilience, about trusting that the heart can heal even when it feels broken. I know now that saying goodbye isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of courage, a promise to yourself that life can begin again. If you're facing a new chapter, know that it's okay to be scared. It's okay to hold on to what matters and let go of what no longer fits. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is keep moving forward, even when you're not sure where the path will lead. The day came when everything had to be final. The last box was taped shut, the keys felt heavy in my palm. My old house stood quietly behind me, and for a long moment I couldn't bring myself to walk away. The porch swings swayed in the wind, and I almost expected to see him there, waiting with a gentle smile. Isn't it strange how even silence can feel full of memories? Closing the front door one last time felt like closing the door on an entire lifetime. My hand lingered on the doorknob, and I let myself remember it all. The joy, the laughter, even the fights that taught us so much about love. Each step down those porch stairs was a lesson in letting go. How do you say goodbye to a home that shaped every part of who you are? Carrying the last box to the car, I stopped and looked back at the garden. The roses were in bloom, brighter than ever, almost as if they knew I needed a sign. I picked a single flower, pressing it between the pages of my journal. It was my way of carrying a piece of that life forward. Sometimes you have to create your own rituals to honor what's ending. Driving away, the tears came, fast, unstoppable. Grief doesn't ask for permission. It just arrives, unexpected and raw. But as the city faded behind me, I felt something shift inside. Was it relief? Or maybe a tiny spark of hope I hadn't noticed before? The first few days in the new apartment were harder than I imagined. Everything was unfamiliar. I kept reaching for light switches that weren't there, searching for the sound of old floorboards. My heart ached for the comfort of routine. But each morning, sunlight poured through new windows, reminding me that life keeps going even when you're not ready. One night, after a restless sleep, I woke up and heard rain tapping on the glass. I wrapped myself in that old wedding quilt and sat by the window just listening. In the quiet, I realized that healing doesn't happen all at once. It's slow, with setbacks and small victories. Have you ever felt the tiniest bit stronger even while your heart still hurts? That week I met my new neighbors. A little girl from across the hall knocked on my door, asking if I needed help carrying groceries. Her kindness, so simple and pure, reminded me that the world is full of gentle surprises. It made me smile, my first real smile in weeks. Sorting through boxes, I found an old music box my husband gave me on our 5th anniversary. I wound it up, and the familiar tune filled the room, soft and sweet. The melody carried me back to a time when love felt invincible. Grief and joy, I realized, can exist together. Sometimes it's the bittersweet memories that help us heal. A letter from my daughter arrived, full of encouragement and love. "You're braver than you think, Mom," she wrote. Her words echoed in my mind, pushing me to believe in myself even when I doubted my own strength. Isn't it amazing how a few kind words can change the course of a day? I decided to explore the neighborhood, walking through tree-lined streets and discovering a cozy cafe on the corner. The barista greeted me with a warm smile, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of belonging. Building a new life is hard, but sometimes it starts with something as small as a good cup of coffee. Gradually, I began to unpack not just my things, but pieces of myself I thought I'd lost. I put up family photos, arranged flowers in a vase, cooked a meal that tasted like home. Each little act was a declaration: I'm still here. I'm still living. Of course, there were hard days too. Some mornings, the sadness hit like a wave, knocking the air from my lungs. I allowed myself to feel it, to sit with the pain, knowing it was all part of the process. Healing isn't about forgetting. It's about honoring what was while making room for what could be. One afternoon, I visited a nearby park and watched children play, their laughter echoing across the grass. I realized that even in moments of sorrow, life continues all around us. There's beauty in letting yourself notice the world again. Do you remember a moment when you finally allowed hope back in? Little by little, I started to find comfort in the unfamiliar. A new favorite chair, the sound of rain, the gentle rhythm of daily life. I understood then that my strength didn't come from holding on, but from having the courage to begin again. If you've ever faced a change so big it felt impossible, you know what I mean. Maybe you've lost a home, a person, or even a part of yourself. Maybe you're still searching for the strength to move forward. If you are, I'd love to hear your story. Leave a comment below and share what helped you through your own turning point. You never know who might need your words. Even now, on the other side of so much loss, I'm discovering new parts of myself. Pieces shaped by both joy and pain. I'm learning that every ending has its own kind of beauty, and every challenge brings a lesson. The heart, I think, is stronger than we ever realize. There was a morning when I woke up and realized the quiet didn't hurt as much. Sunlight streamed through the curtains in my new bedroom, and for the first time, I let myself breathe in the peace of this unfamiliar place. I sat up in bed listening, not for echoes of the past but for the gentle pulse of the present. Healing, I discovered, is made of these small awakenings. I walked through my apartment barefoot, feeling the smoothness of the floors that didn't creak like the old ones. At first, the silence felt lonely, but slowly it began to feel like possibility. Every empty space became a canvas. I found myself rearranging furniture, hanging new curtains, planting fresh flowers on the windowsill. In each simple act, I was creating a life that felt more like my own. Sometimes I caught myself smiling at memories, at a funny story, a shared look, the taste of apple pie cooling on the kitchen table. The sadness was still there, but it softened, no longer sharp and overwhelming. Grief had become a part of me, but so had hope. It was possible to carry both and still move forward. I started reaching out more, letting people in. I invited my neighbors for tea, sharing laughter and new stories. The little girl across the hall became a regular visitor, always bringing drawings and wildflowers. My world was slowly growing again, not replacing what I'd lost, but adding new colors to my days. It took courage to accept this new beginning. There were moments when doubt crept in, whispering that I'd left too much behind, that I would never truly belong. But each time I felt afraid, I remembered all the times I'd faced change before, and survived. My story wasn't over. It was just turning a new page. On weekends, I explored the city, wandering through parks and markets, letting curiosity lead me. I found a bench by the river where I'd sit with a journal, writing letters to my husband, telling him about my days, my fears, my small triumphs. Somehow, I felt close to him there, as if love could stretch across any distance. The apartment began to fill with new memories. Friends gathered for coffee, my grandchildren's laughter echoing off the walls. Photos of the old house mixed with new snapshots. Moments of courage, joy, and quiet gratitude. Home, I realized, isn't a single place. It's the sum of all the love we hold on to wherever we are. Sometimes I still missed my old life with an ache so deep it startled me. But I learned not to run from it. I let myself feel it, honor it, and then look forward with gentle hope. Each day I found a new reason to say thank you. For the past, for the present, for the chance to keep growing. One evening, I lit a candle and sat in silence, remembering all the chapters that brought me here. I whispered a promise to myself I would keep loving, keep living, and keep creating new beginnings no matter how many goodbyes I faced. I knew now that love never really leaves us. It just changes shape. I reached out to family more, sharing stories and laughter, building new traditions that felt just as precious as the old ones. Even on the hard days, I felt stronger, knowing I had survived the unthinkable and found my way to hope again. If you're reading this and walking through your own valley of change or loss, I want you to know, there is always another sunrise. There is always a way to begin again. Sometimes the smallest steps are the bravest, and every act of healing is a victory. The journey of letting go and starting over taught me more about myself than I ever thought possible. I learned that pain and joy can share the same space, that it's okay to mourn and celebrate at the same time. Every scar is a sign of a love that was real, a life that was lived fully. Now, when I look around my new home, I see not just what I lost, but everything I've gained. I see resilience, courage, the gift of another chance. I see love carried forward, made stronger by all I've survived. If my story touched your heart or made you reflect on your own journey, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What helped you heal? What did you learn about yourself when you faced a new beginning? Share your thoughts below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs right now. And if you felt hope or comfort here, please share this story, like the video, and subscribe for more stories about healing, resilience, and the beauty of starting again. Remember, you're not alone, and every ending can be the doorway to a brand new beginning.